Okay, good morning, guys. This is Simon with TRADENPERFORM Coaching. Important disclaimer and reminder for all traders and investors. The webinar is for educational purposes only and not a recommendation to buy or sell any particular financial instrument. Equities, futures, options, and currency trading have large potential rewards, but also large potential risks. Please be aware of the risks and be willing to accept them in order to invest in the futures and options markets. Do not trade with money you cannot afford to lose. The website is neither a solicitation nor an offer to buy or sell equities, futures, or options. No representation is being made that any account will or is likely to achieve profits or losses similar to those discussed on this channel. Past performance of any trading system or methodology is not necessarily indicative of future results. Consult your registered financial advisor and your risk trading plan before ever investing or trading any financial instrument. Okay, let's get started. So just real quick on ES profile, let's go through each of them. CL 5-minute chart yesterday. Evening session, break it down. Okay, so there we are. So here's the 8 o'clock open, right? You can see as it approached the anomaly, it gets a responsive buy the first time in, second time, this barely missed, this touched it, got the response. So there's a single print up here, right? And it's bouncing between the two. So it comes up the anomaly, goes to single print, comes down to the single prints down here. You can see they tried to hold it, but it failed. We had that short to the downside. First time into the anomaly, right? See how they got a responsive buy, but ultimately it failed. This is why we just don't buy them naked. Into the single prints found responsive buyers. Push back up. So you can see again and again when you have a single print nearby, if you're shorting or going long, you kind of have to use the combination of the two to make a little bit bigger zone, which is fine because you're waiting for the algo to set you up anyways, right? So we come up, back to the single prints, reject, back to the anomaly, find responsive buyers, back to the top of the single prints, reject. They attempt to come back over here to the single prints and, to the anomaly. They can't make it this time, and we just petered out into the end of the day, and you can see we've gapped this morning, right? If we look at the ES profile, it's in the way here. What is that? Let's get rid of this. There we go. So if we look at the ES profile, and again, we had ES down pretty good yesterday, right? We opened up in the single print. So see between the zone, really. So if you look how it, like I always had a hard time when I started trading with this methodology. I was like, well, it's just kind of ping-ponging between the two. But yeah, that's actually what it did. So we open up, we ping-pong between the single prints and the anomaly, finally break free. This is a prior day's low or high. Either way, the orange line, we know those are critical areas. And there's a single print right behind it. We come up to those single prints, reject, come back to the single print, see how they try to hold it again, right? Then we come, remember from single print area, you usually get a response off the top and the bottom. We got the response off the bottom there, and that was both the end of the single prints, a prior day's low, and this is the 50 retrace off the March 3rd low that we mentioned in the morning. Find responsive buyers, that was the low of the day, and it trades all the way back up to 38.92. And then in the afternoon, after that massive buy wave, right, what you'd be waiting for usually is the 50 retrace. NQ made it to the 50 retrace. ES did not, and that sprung it up to the prior day's value area low, I want to say. Yes, that's correct. Value area low from the prior day where it rejected, right? And then our last actor in the trade was NQ. And NQ, I had a monster day in NQ yesterday, obviously. Okay, so in NQ, we open up into the single prints, right? This is also a, I forget where I had this marked off. This was a critical area. No, prior day's higher low. Plus there's a whole single print area here, which makes me wonder why I put this in yellow and dashed. Usually that's a Dalton's gap fill. So at any rate, came down into the top of the single prints, responded back to the single prints and the anomaly on the other side, right? And this is why you need both the anomaly and the single prints, because you can see over here, initially we reject out of the anomaly, then we reject out of the single print, so it does kind of go inch by inch sometimes, right? Then where we were trying to get long, right? So we got this short, we got paid over here. And then down here, right, I was trying to get it down to the back of this white zone and it couldn't go. But see that long consolidation where they tried underneath, right? So this is where we captured the long to the upside, right? And that fed us into, I'm trying to remember if I got this long. I know I got the long over here. I don't remember if I got this long over here, if it's set up the way I wanted it to, but I definitely caught that short for 100. And then over here, remember ES couldn't make it back to the 50 retrace, but I think you could. All right. So remember, to start your thinking process, if we get to the 50-60, the 786 is your stop, right? That has a high win rate by itself. It's not 80-90%, but it's high enough where you could actually, if you traded with a 1-to-1 RR, you would be able to trade successfully in almost all products out of that area, especially if you had additional information about location and some orientation as to which way the market might go. This setup by itself is powerful. As it is, it's triggered us on the algo right into the low. And I got very lucky because I actually had to walk away for a moment and I captured this entire rip pretty much to the upside and closed it out and went and took my walk, right? But if you look how this traded, it was really logical. We had single prints to single prints, front of the single prints held, didn't get to the back of the single prints, right? It consolidated beforehand, but I still think this is a fantastic location should we get over here, back to the anomaly, and then finally into the single prints where it rejected again, right? At the end of the day. So let's go, and now that we have that mess finished, let's go and do profiles as quickly as possible so that we're ready. Park here, ES profile, and let's go make our adjustments. Hey, excuse me a second, guys. Yes. What? No. Okay. Love you. Bye. Okay, so let's do these adjustments really quick. So again, you can see we just came back to the 50 retrace, right? So this is the 50. I'll leave that in place. This is the 62. This is the 786, those white dashed lines. All right, so now we'll start to make our adjustments. This goes to a prior high. And then we'll move pieces around. So this goes here. Yellow zone up here. You need to make the adjustment to remember the settle price. It's actually right over here, and we're actually gapping above, up above the range here in a couple minutes, assuming we hold above 39.09. So the first clue you'd have that there's an issue is we trade below 39.0975, right? Otherwise, potential for a straight push up. let's see. Points of control, go here. That's the hardest place on that chart to initiate a trade. Great target. So if we come back in, right, so the natural target, you have to be thinking, even though it doesn't hit it every time, it hits it so much of the time that if we get underneath the 3,900, that 38.78 to 73 is the natural target, right? Value area low is put in place. We need a prior day's low. I'm going to put it just over the 50, but they go in the same place pretty much. And let's see, single prints go here, here. There's a minor single prints right here. And those are double prints, so no. Single prints right over here. I'll have it marked off in case we get a deep dive for some reason. And really wide, 38.90 to 38.55. That's 35 points. This area can get easily traded through up and down. So you want to make that in your notes, right? 89 to 55, easily traded through. The the targets would be back towards 73, 78. But this is scalping territory. Below value area low and above value area high is where I'd want to initiate for pushes back into the mid. Usually when you have a wide day like this, you end up with balance the next day, and it's Friday. So you want to look towards the edge for pushes back down, right? And that, I think, all there is to draw on that chart. Anomaly. This is a final anomaly down here. I'm going to mark it off in blue. It is the last anomaly on the chart. It's inside the value area. So I'm going to mark it like this. Make it blue for a weak anomaly. But we need to understand why it's rotating in that area. And I don't have anything else there. That's it. So let's go see what that looks like. Control A. Minimize. 5-minute chart. I'll print these locations before we look at it. So that's what the zones levels look like today. I'll put it down to 38.10, which captures the 62 retrace. And I'll put it up to 39, up to the old high over there. Edit, copy chart to BMP. File, save as JPEG. How do I post that? This should have been saved as edit, copy chart to BMP 0326. Okay, I did it right. Okay. This will open momentarily. Slide this over. Let's go fix CL really quick. CL profile. That goes, let's see. So this goes like this. Here. To here. There's another single print there. Friday's high, Friday's low. Value area high. Value area low. This actually gets moves like this. Believe it or not. That's what that looks like. How much you can do. Single prints right here. You see, we traded straight through those single prints. That should be support on the way back, by the way. That I'd mark that 60.07 to 59.82 if it gets back there. You should get a response out of that the first time. I think that's it. This goes just light blue. And then the point of controls within volume point of controls within this anomaly, I'll leave that as is. Just seems right on that. And this is a prior high. And on this chart, I'm just going to leave it solid for expediency's sake. A, minimize. See how 5 minutes. Let's see how that looked. So there's your open. And let's get that in context so everyone can see a little bit better. Let's throw in the overnight. Okay, and so you can see overnight from the close yesterday. So the close is all the way back over here. Remember that shipping thing in the Suez Canal is going to affect this to some degree. So that's approximately the close, right? Bounced off the point of control from the day session, right, to value area high, into yellow zone. So remember, yellow zone should have rejected. It didn't. Got above, stopped out sellers, become buyers, push up to the next anomaly, into the anomaly. They attempt to sell it, but no luck there. And into London high, they push it up into the single prints. and the anomaly above. They finally reject out of this anomaly back to where? Retest prior day's high and the anomaly where the sellers once again got stopped out, so they become responsive buyers. Back to the single prints, reject back to the anomaly, through the single prints, into the anomaly, reject down again. This is why we have the algo to help us out. And then finally, we've open driven through that anomaly, this anomaly. So obviously, I start over at 8 o'clock, right? So the chart starts for me again right here, right? So sellers, people who try to short that zone have been left behind. So I expect when it comes back, you get a responsive buy. This is an anomaly, but it's a weak anomaly. And we've pushed through to the yellow zone. Now you'll notice there's a lack of single prints above, so it's really just the yellow zones. And the logical place to trap people here, if I was going to look for a short, would be between 61.34 and 61.67. If it stretches up here, of course, the anomaly will help us. And then usually I don't care about the trend lines, but that's quite a strong trend line. So I would just mark this off as that needs to be broken in order to go lower, right? That covers over almost 24 hours of time there. So clearly that trend matters. You'd want to see it broken. All right, so I'll print this for everybody. I don't have anything above 62. If we get above 62, I'll start posting it. Save as JPEG. CL 0326. Got it. I'll fix it. Hold on. There's CL for those who want it. And let's minimize this. I don't think I missed it, actually. I think I skipped it. Yeah, it was, oh, maybe I didn't. Sorry, I stand corrected. I screwed that up. You're right, Randy. Forgive me. That is valid. I'll update the chart. We should stretch this out a bit. Okay, now I got it. So I will reprint the 5-minute chart on that. Thanks, Randy. That was helpful. Yes. Okay, there we go. Okay. Again, this pushed to a high, so technically this breaking this 3-bar combo here, it's early, but if they can't take out the high, now that we've got a point of control underneath, right, you would come in for gap fill there, or attempted gap fill would be natural to think that would have a decent chance. Sliding that over. And then let's get NQ done. Again, it's been a really good week. We don't have to press. All right. So let's draw some things back. Let's see. This comes. That. Fire low shifts. Close enough for hand grenades. Mm-hmm. 20 controls. Value area low, value area high. Yellow zone. Single prints. Single prints. Still there. Weak anomaly here. But it's the last anomaly on the page. Always torn about these. We'll leave it as blue for now. Nothing else. So if we look at the 5-minute chart overnight on that. Okay, so the way that worked. Okay, so once again, you see overnight, we traded all the way through value area, right? People who try to get long inside the point of control, people who try to get short inside inside that prior day's point of control, just ripped apart both directions. Yes, I know it worked here, but the general rule is if you try to get consistent with this kind of PA, it's very hard. You want points where they turn around, right? Retail traders overall control. You can see they're holding the prior day's value area high and value area low. immediately the first thing I think of is, can I get shorts up here to sweep through here? And can I get longs down here to sweep back up through there? It's the first thing I think when I see that kind of PA. The other thing that jumps out to me is clearly 12,940 has to be that upside target for a trade, and also the single prints over here. And you can see overnight they overshot the single prints a bit there in early Asia. And the reason why is because you can see they try to hold it, came back above. Usually you'd expect a response here. When you don't get what you would expect, that's what brought up the failure, right? And then I would expect a response out of this whole location from 12,635 all the way down to this whole 100-point area is prime time long location if we can get down into it, right? So who knows if we can. We've obviously on NQ we're up 15, but if we look at it from a, is it bullish or is it bearish? All right, so if you look at that open, pretty much a flat open relative to where we were the day before. We don't want to trade in this area. We already know it's hard. We'd like to see it get up to this 12,840, up to this single prints for potential short, right? And then the other thing I would look at is I'd go, okay, so let me slide this over here for a second. Okay, so the other thing I'd look at when I'm over here on NQ, and it's been providing the bulk of our P&L, right? Not only the algo setup, but I was discussing this with Kevin last night. Where are the stops? I pointed this out to Kevin yesterday. The stops are here, right? When we closed, I was like, you want to take this out, right? In the afternoon, which they did. You can see it got resistance. And then for me, where I would think we'd want to get the stops taken out, which again, this confirms, is I'd want to take these stops out right over here and then look for potential short setup. If we fail to get short out of there, this is the next logical area to get above it and then stop them out. And then finally, I would say this over here. Why? That's where all the stops have to be, just if you look at it logically, maybe here as well, right? The stops just have to be sitting behind there. In terms of long, the weakest location would be here, right? That would be Globex low. I'd be very interested behind this. And my target would be, I'd like to take out the stops over here above the high, right? So that's not a location per se, right? I just like to see it get above there and then trap back in. Also below this 12,660, right? And then this would be just totally sweet if we can get behind this area right over here. So when I put those lines there, this is probably bad because we have it denoting as meaning something else, but I want to get above these areas or below these areas and trap back in for the trade in the other direction, right? It just makes sense. If you look, where do the stops come? You get behind this swing, stops get taken out. You get behind here. So this was a close into the low, right? If you look where we came next, see how they try to hold here, and that did generate a return, right? It drove higher out of the gate, but where the real opportunity came was getting behind this structure. All the stops had to be back there. We got behind it. We did this long consolidation. That resulted in the push. So if I looked at this here, I'd go, maybe here, but this is my big target to get behind, assuming we have a two-way market, and then each of those levels up. It's just another way of looking at, hey, where are the stops, right? And then if we go look at one last element, which would have been, I've been on a smaller range, not the 8 range, although I prefer it right now, but overnight, a little bit smaller, 6 range. And so remember our key setup, right? So there's 2 setups. Sometimes we like them, sometimes we don't. So in a smaller range bar, I want a 3-bar combo that gets verified. So this 3-bar combo gets verified. It's not as important as this 3-bar combo. Why? The last 3-bar combo prior to a push to a low, that's the one that matters. So this is actually the more important trigger of the 2. When we get above that, that's generally where the additional pushes will come from. This still worked just fine. It was a good 3-bar algo. right? Point of control above. It lifted. It got verified. It was B. It was a B grade trade, but still worked, right? Again, when you're looking in here, no algo set up to the long side. And if you look into, oh, that's not overnight, but is it? Let's go do this real quick. That was a long we caught yesterday. There we go. Overnight. So again, if you look on that push into the low, right? So see how this pushed a low by one tick right here? I'm going to spread this out. Okay. So that made it from a B grade to an A grade trade. That's exactly like yesterday afternoon, right? Assuming that we one tick the low. If we didn't, it stays B grade. One tick below the low, that becomes an A grade trade. Looks exactly like yesterday afternoon looked before we caught that 100 point trade. You got a 3-bar combo, one ticked into the low, the PSC has to be somewhere in here, and then see ya, right? And then the next stage of that breakout would actually come off of this 3-bar combo. And so you want to get familiar with what that looks like. That's not even a 3-bar combo, so I stand corrected. It's just not there. This is actually right here is your last 3-bar combo. So remember, the first and second time are valid. So that 3-bar combo that came at 6 in the morning, that's the point of control. So this is the first time above. This is the second time above. Second time above is more important, and that gave you the continuation trade to the upside. So we know when we're looking for that in all our trades. So right now, based on a 6 range, right, on the push to the high, it would actually be massive because I would say it's this. It's a 4-bar last fractal to the high. It's that. So it's actually this. I'd actually draw this whole thing. And there's where the POC is. So below 12,786, that would trigger us to the low. It's so far, right? So you have these B grade setups. It's so far. If you take this trigger, you just have to go. If it holds for 15 points, I'll take it. Because none of us are going to put a stop back all the way back up here, right? That would just suck if that's how that shakes out, right? And then we come over here and we look, same trade, right? And we look on the 8 range. And on the 8 range, same thing, your trigger for the short. $86. So we need something else to develop up here in order to help us out with NQ. It's not quite there yet. All right, so we'll just keep hunting it. Again, I prefer the setups off the 8 range unless it just gets dramatically slow, and that is what I will be playing for or keep my eye on is on the 8 range today until I have overwhelming evidence. Remember, I want to get above these levels on the PNF chart, above these levels to stop everyone out. So 12,840 is what I'd hope we could achieve or higher, and then a trap back in, right? So we have this big consolidation over here. So let's just see what it does, but I'd like to see a head and shoulders develop after taking out 12,840. It doesn't always do it, but it usually does. On the other side, the stops have to be sitting right down here to this 12,755, right? And then the big stops have to be sitting down here at 12,650. Those are the areas that I'm looking at. I think this area can be relatively easily traded through. So just an area for warning. And then on econ, we have Friday. Consumer sentiment, no Fed speakers today. So we'll see what wags the tail today. But That's what we're looking for. I've got no trade set up so far, so I'll just chill and relax and let it set up for me. And watching, we're at resistance on ES at 39.14, and we've just been dancing there all morning long. There's just nothing to, this is nothing. It's not long, it's not short, it's not anything. It's just, let's wait till we get some kind of rotation going one way or the other, right? I don't want to be too quick to jump to a small range bar. And then nice to take out these stops over here. When I look at the same chart on ES, see how we came up and we took out these stops? And that's good because the next place would be right up here at 39.22. So overnight it took out those stops over there to the left, then fell back in, right? So when I look at this, oh, this has the chart, the RTH. So these are all single prints is what that's denoting. But you can see that we took out the stops over the PNF. And you can look over here, right? So like, see when you look over here, you go, we take out the stops here. We did that and counter-rotated. Then we take out the stops here. This went into trend and did not retreat after we took out the stops. We took out the stops here, minor counter-rotation. We took out the stops here. And then the next place is at 39.22. That's also more powerful because it's single prints and it's a prior day high. Again, I'd love to see the stops taken out here. Let's see this really quick. There we go. So I'd love to see the stops taken out right at that 39.32 for a short. And then also this area and this area as well. So we'll see. And then remember, the other thing we want to keep in mind, all right, so that's a pretty big impulse move off the bottom. So right now at the 24 hours, I'm going to color this a different color, but as of right now, assuming no new high is hit, big assumption, 50, 60 back into the point of control. So just more noise to add to that level, but that's where you'd expect some type of response, right? So first time in, failure to hold the 62, brings us back for a retest of the lows, and we'll go from there. 9 a.m. is the last number. Maybe a quiet day today, and I'd be all right with that. I got nothing on CL right now. Well, actually, that's not true. Three-bar combo to a high. That was your trigger short. Potential head and shoulders. I'll see if I can get something into the 50-60 back. I'm going to press back up. This is also a three-bar combo. If it pushes into a low, I don't want the point of control closing behind that. Again, it looks a little bit noisy so far this morning. We'll just see how the day goes. Remember, you have that whole thing where that container ship is adding significant cost to shipping worldwide, including imported oil. Even if U.S. is domestically self-reliant, it's a global market, right? And it's going to respond to pressures globally. So we'll see if we can get set up. It looks pretty sloppy so far, just chopping sideways. And so the other thing I want to remind everyone of is when it's open and it's slow and grindy like this, right? We get paid to make money, right? That means when the market's moving, we get paid. When the market's slow and grindy like this, I'm not for calling a I'm not a trader that says, well, that's location. Even if I'm 100% right. Why? Because I suck at sitting in the trade, right? I want it to go. G-O. Unless I just know we're going to grind one way all day long and I'm willing to sit in it. And that's rare. And I don't know that, right? So when I look at this PA, I'm pretty fine with letting them open it up first and then come into work versus guessing when they'll open it up, right? Because it just leads to frustration and chop. I don't want to spend my mental effort on that. Does anyone have any questions in the room before we see if there's anything to be said or done? NQ is triggered short, but not off an A grade. It's still it's a B plus because it got verified, but it did not push to a high. So, and that trigger, by the way, came at right here, 12:08, and it's 1 minute in front of numbers. So I would just wait a couple minutes and see what happens. Or at least trigger back in on a 50-60 back against the high. But I'd get through that econ first. So see how it's coming back to the 50-60 right at 9 o'clock? Right now, if you think the high will hold, you can do that with like a 15-point stop and go, okay, I know what I'm doing, right? And your stop would have to go behind 25. And let me kill this recording.